session takes a deep dive into the heart of effective food safety culture, for which I would be later on inviting Ms. Sarika Agarwal to moderate the session. I'd like to first introduce the panel members. Dr. Balkumar Marthi, Dean Innovation and Entrepreneurship, Geetham University. He recently retired as Dean of Campus Life at Geetham University, enhancing student well-being across 3 campuses. With 26 years of experience at Unilever R&D in India and the Netherlands, he is an expert at food science safety and risk assessment. He has played key roles in academia, government, and industry policy making. Joining him will be Ms. Shilpa Kosalkar, Senior Director of Food Safety and Quality Assurance at PepsiCo. She is a food and fermentation graduate from ICT Mumbai with over 27 years of experience in the FMCG industry, specializing in food safety, R&D, and compliance. She has led quality, strategy, and risk management across global roles at companies like Mondelez, General Mills, and Kellogg's. And we will be joining by Mr. Ravishankar Menon, Food Safety Lead Auditor, TUV SUT. He is a postgraduate in Applied Microbiology with 22 years of experience, including 18 years in fruit processing, split equally between QA and production. He brings a wealth of experience across diverse food categories and currently serves as a lead auditor with TUV. He is expertly qualified in various standards such as HACCP, ISO 22000, FSSC 22000, and BRCGS. Let's hear from the think tank about the leverage one can get by fostering a robust food safety culture. I'd like to now invite all the speakers to the stage. Let's give them a round of applause.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I think since morning we've been talking about food safety culture. I think Kamis very beautifully had put it across, saying that how culture, it can't be overnight, right? There are 5 stages, and it's important for you to understand in your organization, where do you fall? Where are you at this moment of time? It's not just one aspect of your food safety culture. We are going to focus on how you assess the what, why, and how of your food safety culture. We have experts here on the dais today who are going to take you through the experience of food safety culture. Just to start about it, the definition, as we all know about the food safety culture, it's just the shared values, beliefs, the norms, the mindset, behavior towards food safety in, across, and throughout an organization. As we may see today morning, we were supposed to start at 9, which didn't happen because we all say it's IST time. It's a culture. But yes, with the travels increasing, we do put in an effort to make it on time as well. So the culture can change. It develops throughout the organization as well. It's about pride and commitment to a safe food product. We used to talk about hazards, but then from hazards, we had started moving more into looking at how the organizations behave. How does the culture develop? Because all the hazards comes through the culture, the behavior, the pattern that the food handlers, the organization is following. It is how everyone thinks and acts to make sure the food is safe that's been delivered or given to the next person in the food chain. Why food safety culture matters. So after me, Balkumar is going to put in a lot of light about why does it matter. But yes, it's not just about, making sure or showing off that this is the reason about food safety culture, but it helps you, it equips your employees to handle hazards, not just of the routine work, but beyond that, right? It helps them to be decisive, to take things beyond the routine work processes that they handle. It increases the regulatory compliances and reduces food safety incidents. If you guys remember Kamis's first slide, it was just about regulatory compliance in terms of food safety culture. So that's the basic in terms of regulatory compliances. It impacts the well-being of consumers. The safer the food, the better it is for you as an organization, for you as a brand as well. It meets ethical standards. Serves as a fundamentally responsibility in the food industry. Everyone who's handling food, right from the farm to the fork, we are equally responsible. Me as a consumer, I am responsible to make sure the food which I'm handling is safe. The farmer out there, the organizations who are manufacturing, transporting, everyone out there are equally responsible. Stay in sync with the scientific progress, right? There are many things. The technology, I think we've been talking about technology right from the starting till now, saying like the technologies have developed, making sure we use those technologies to develop our food safety culture, it's important. And it helps you to boost your global food security. The food chain has become longer. It's important that the culture, I might be buying my raw material from a supplier who does not have a good food safety culture that basically affects my food safety as well as my food security in terms of hazards, in terms of defense, in terms of fraud. So taking this forward, I have great speakers today with me. So I would hand over this session, taking this ahead to Dr. Balkumar Marthi. Please help me in having him here over.
Thank you, Sarika, and thanks everyone for being here. I'm really pleased and honored to be here. I think this concept of food safety culture is a no-brainer. I mean, we've been talking for years and years about why it is important. Yes, it is important. We all know why it is. The more important thing is what and how we implement it, and why we need to do it in a certain way. It doesn't matter if you're a regulator setting the rules for food safety, or you're an operational person on the factory floor implementing certain steps and procedures that allow you to make your food safe. So the important thing is the principles, the processes, the paths of food safety are there. They're all written. They're easy to write actually, and that's the discipline that you get. The culture is your attitude, is your compass that allows you to explore the boundaries and maybe even extend the boundaries, because that's how you grow. Extend the boundaries of these processes so that not only do you protect the population, the world, but something that I've not heard people say, you also end up delighting the consumer, because that's the ultimate aim. We want them to buy your product and make sure that it's safe, but it's also something you enjoy using. So I think that's something you need to remember in the context of culture. A lot of terms are used in association with food safety culture. The values we talk about, you talk about commitment, you talk about integrity, you talk about honesty, etc., etc. But there's one term that is very much more important, and I'm thankful to Kameshji this morning who used that term. That is courage. You need the courage to challenge the system. You need the courage and the trust to believe in the data and the science to make sure that you're going in the right direction. That's been something that's lacking. We talk about science-based decision-making, but once there's an incident, you end up going back to the knee-jerk hazard-based approach. So please keep that in mind. What I'm going to do is to kind of go a little bit into the nuances of food safety and take a specific case of risk assessment and risk mitigation. Yeah, ultimately, we are working in the food industry, in food safety, to reduce the risk of a problem. Yeah? Whether you like it or not, foodborne illness is caused by you and I. You may say it comes from the raw material, you may say it comes from bad hygiene, etc. But who's responsible for that? Us. So we need to make sure that we understand what the risks are in the system, and that should be a premise to reduce that risk so that the foods we make are safe for consumers. Yeah? Just to quote one of the pioneers of food safety, we are here to develop a system, not to develop a culture, not a system or a program. In the larger context, and this puts a lot of more responsibility on us, and we saw some of that in the morning. We're not only talking about healthy food product that an individual eats. It's healthy foods, healthy diets, healthy lifestyles, safe lifestyles, and a healthy planet. So in that context, how do we look at food safety? Yeah, you need to have a holistic, these are all terms that we have, motherhood terms that we have used for a long time. What are these holistic systems so that you understand what is happening? And part of that fundamental understanding is the basic understanding of human behavior, consumer behavior, our behavior, your behavior, in all dimensions of food safety. We talk more about our behavior at this point. So the point I'm trying to make, like I said, most common causes of foodborne illness is unsafe behavior. At the end of the day, food safety is about managing risks. Yeah, you manage the risk carefully, you're doing it. You don't manage it, you have a problem. And fundamentally, it's something where we talk about safe by design. You manage the risks in such a way at each step that it cumulatively adds up to an entire product and a process and a system that is safe. Yeah. So one of the first steps in the courage journey that I talk about is this concept of what we call acceptable risk. What is acceptable risk? You cannot have zero risk. You cannot say that it is 100% guaranteed to be safe. Yeah. If there is something you do, there's a hazard inherent to it. You're crossing the road, the hazard is that you may get hit. How you handle it reduces your risk of injury. But that is something that you reach a level of acceptability, because that depends on lots of circumstances. That's why I'm talking about this holistic, organizational, behavioral, and systemic view of food safety. Is that what will you accept? What will a consumer accept? What is the country background in terms of foodborne illness? What are the kinds of geopolitical, sociological, health, epidemiological issues that come into play, so that at the end of it, when you do the risk analysis, the scientific risk analysis, assessment, management, and mitigation procedures, you are providing a safe product. So how do you explain to consumers what acceptable risk is? Is one case of illness in 10 million people acceptable? It may be acceptable in one country, it may not be acceptable elsewhere. So you need to balance that. And this is a classic example of acceptable risk, something called the cliff edge theory that was developed by my colleagues in Unilever. So you have a cliff, yeah? If you don't have enough information or knowledge or data or science, you can only say that there's a safe limit and there's an unsafe limit. You cross that little boundary, that barrier, you're unsafe. But what if we could generate some knowledge? What if we could agree that we can have an additional kind of thing where you say there's a safe limit, the unsafe limit gets pushed forward because you've taken some steps to ensure that there is a level where beyond that you can't do. So this is based on science. You put a sign there, people know that I don't want to go beyond that. The consequences of having just a black and white thing is that, yeah, you miss the spectacular view, you miss all those things, but you are safe. Consequence of this is there might be some issues, but is that acceptable to you? And that's something that the science tells you to do. Yeah? The same thing, like, why do we use protective equipment? At a different point in your life, you have different risks that you have to deal with. When you're small, you've got training wheels on your bicycle, so the chances of falling are much less. So maybe just a helmet is enough. Yeah? So effective risk management, so we need to really understand the context. extremely important. We don't understand the context. Foods made in India might be different from foods made elsewhere, so you need to make sure that you understand and collect all the data. Better understanding of consumer behavior. Way we do certain things may be different from the way certain other people do. There are people within a country who do that. Yeah. I drop a piece of chocolate on the ground, I said 5 seconds, within 5 seconds I eat it, the 5-second rule, I'm fine. Somebody else might say, no, you can't do that. Yeah? So how conservative are you? How does your behavior work into the behavior of your company and an organization and your decision making? That's very important. That's why the word courage comes back, because you need the courage to go against your behavior, to base your decisions on scientific principles. Yeah? So a systemic approach, and then understanding what acceptable risk means, and then you translate this into management procedures that will allow you to develop very robust procedures that stand the test of time, that are not really completely bespoke, but they are tailored to a particular environment which is sufficiently different from another environment. So we make sure that those things have. We heard about e-commerce and quick commerce. What are the risks? How do the risks magnify or reduce? I was a little amused to see that you're talking about risks involved in 10-minute delivery. I'm saying in 10-minute delivery, risks go down. Yeah, so I'm not worried about anything happening within those 10 minutes, unless it's a very bad temperature abuse or the time takes longer or something. You need to worry about the product itself that gets into the delivery mode. Is it robust enough? Is it safe enough? So I think we need to look at that behavior. Yeah? And once you have that attitudinal framework, the behavioral framework, you have all the steps in the culture. Yeah? Clear responsibilities. It's all about leadership and management. There's nothing different from food safety culture as organizational culture. An organization that practices these cultures, these facets, is also going to be a very good food manufacturer. Yeah? I think that's come twice. So I'll leave you with this quote from a good friend of mine, Felix Amiri. It's about culture, commitment, and care. Yeah? You add context, you add courage, you add all the other C's to it. Food safety fortification instead of certification. Certification is a compliance-driven culture. I comply, I'm fine. I don't know, I will worry about if something goes wrong, what to do. Fortification is not about food fortification for nutrition. Fortification is about applying this holistic approach where you're actually improving your food safety day by day by learning from what you do. Yeah? Commitment rather than compliance, mission rather than discourse, and then materializing safer food instead of monetizing it. We always think about, okay, how can I make this a competitive advantage? Don't worry about it. It's about, your food is good, people like it, they will eat it. Food safety is not on top of their minds all the time. They want safe food. They accept, they take it for granted that it's your responsibility to give me safe food. I will differentiate between you and him by the quality and the properties that it offers me. Yeah? The language is very, very important, I think. We use language. Oh, I comply. You ask somebody, what is your food safety culture? Oh, I comply with every rule that is there, that's written in. So I think that's very important. I'll leave you with this message, and I'm sure there'll be questions that come up. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Balkumar sir. We have Shilpa with us next, who's going to take us through saying how does the assessment happen? How do we implement things? And what is that PepsiCo does, which we can take away? Over to you, sir.
First of all, Sarika, thank you for this opportunity. It's great to be talking about the food safety culture and how do we execute that into the manufacturing setups and not only manufacturing setups, but every aspect of the product where we produce, which is our R&D centers as well. So, and speaking in front of the leaders like Kamesh and Madam sitting in here and Sir there, it's very interesting to talk about what we do differently in PepsiCo. So I'll be talking about the execution framework. And when we say food safety culture, it is a standard word which we use everywhere. And it is principle of systems and processes and the play around with respect to behaviors and mindset. So it's a combination. And we always say that culture is an attitude, it's a behavior. And it comes through the systems and processes. It's a combination of it. Every organization drive the food safety culture in a different way, and Kamesh used a word called DNA. Culture is a DNA, and every organization has a way to how you create that DNA into your organization. But there are very standard levers which are used for driving the food safety cultures, and it is not different for any organization. When we talk about the management commitment, capability building and awareness, bringing the awareness across the organization on the food safety and the culture, monitoring and review. If you don't monitor your performance, your culture roadmap, it's very difficult for you to assess where are you leading towards. Continuous improvement. Continuous improvement is always a journey, and why I'm using a word continuous improvement, because nothing is ending. You continually improve as you learn and as the world is evolving as well. So food safety culture is also evolving. Olden days, we used to call a terminology called sama dama danda. You hit and you get the culture. But that's not the philosophy today. That's the reason I'm saying food safety culture is evolving and it is a continual improvement. Resources. You need resources not only in the money format, but also from the people and the right people in the place. We need to have a visible fed leadership into the organization to drive the culture. Samadhamadanda was the one aspect, but now the new aspect is reward and recognition. Recognize the good work done by the people to drive the culture. That's another lever. And the most important, food safety is everyone's business. And the culture is not the leadership or the employee responsibility, it is our ownership. It is the responsibility of everyone who's working into the organization. Leaving that base principles around, I will quickly take you through the framework which we use in PepsiCo. Is it different? It is not different from what we do in other industries. But I will touch base some of the aspects which we do structured way, and it really helps. If you drive a structured agenda into the organization and there is a focus across the value chain, it makes a difference for us. We have a core food safety culture group, and it is based not only in global but across the globe. So there are representation from the different verticals into that culture group. We work on the 4 pillars. Media, which is a communication and awareness mechanism for reminding people that food safety is every day. It's not today, it is not tomorrow, it's every day. The second one is building the capability. If you really want people to make safe product on the ground, you want to innovate the safe product, then you should have the skill set to understand what does food safety or the quality means to the consumer and to your organization. So building that capability. The third pillar is metrics. Are we measuring our culture? Maturity. Are we maturing as a culture of food safety in the organization? So that's the third pillar for us. And the fourth pillar is fearless food safety voice. Okay? We always say, voice your opinion fearlessly. Please highlight if you find any risk. But is there a penalty to it? Are people confident of doing that? So we really want to recognize those food safety heroes who are voicing their opinion fearlessly and ensuring that we avoid the recalls for the organization. So these are the 4 pillars, and I'll quickly run through some of the specifics and highlights of it. In media and communication, when we say leadership commitment, we believe in tone from the top, okay? And when tone from the top is right from the CEO to the plant manager, a communication and awareness and leadership messaging. We have forums called World Food Safety Day, World Quality Month. We don't do day celebration, we do month celebration. And I have a small video to share with you all how the glimpses of it, how it is built across the plant's R&D center, drive the culture in a different way. innovative way, engaging your families into it. And most importantly is standardized and digitized communications. We have a same look and feel across the organization when it comes to the food safety culture. But importantly, we also take the regional nuances into the consideration when we do those things. So media and communication definitely plays a role. Capability build, everybody does the skill mapping. You have to understand what are the role-based competencies, and that is for all professionals on the shop floor, even the different levels, in the sales front, into the R&D centers. We have a centralized food safety culture excellence e-learning modules. You know, we cannot reach everybody in person in virtual world. After the COVID, a lot of things have changed. So things are moving into the e-learning modules, very simple, easy to go and understand for the people. We are working on a FSQ capability building model. So how do we standardize the quality and food safety practices across the organization, and how that culture can be driven through the training and capability program. So that's the one. One important aspect, just everybody to understand this is different one. Every organization, at least especially multinationals, we have code of conduct. PepsiCo, I have worked 27 years in different industries, but PepsiCo is a unique organization where I have seen food safety is included into the mandate code of conduct. And that's the leadership commitment which comes in there. Coming to metrics, most of you must have heard about this. There is a framework called culture excellence. Okay? So we leverage this JFSI culture excellence framework, and Camden helped us do the culture excellence survey. Okay, we did this across 18 manufacturing sites around the world, and we are aiming the R&D centers as well this year, and almost close to 5,512 employees did the survey. The objective was really mapping on the culture front, where are we with respect to the other CPG industries. The results were very good, and we were faring much better in terms of the score. But this was a systemic methodology to understand the culture excellence of the organization in a metric format. And a lot of good opportunities which we could learn. It was surprising for us. Even though we have a good reward and recognition platform, people want more continual reward and recognition to be integrated. People want more resources in our suppliers and industry partners to build into the opportunities on food safety culture. So what we have done is this culture excellence survey is a great metric for us to understand where are we in terms of the maturity, and now we are going to drive the continual improvement on the corrective actions from those opportunities. The last one, fearless to FSQ voice. We have been hearing the word courage, courage. We have a philosophy called courage to care. Okay, courage to care is you show courage because you care for others, you care for yourself. And that's the principle of voicing your opinion fearlessly on food safety. We have a platform called Smiles, so any good work done in the organization, whether it's an individual or a team, we recognize them on a Smiles platform. So we encourage all the food safety culture recognitions to route it through the Smiles platform, so people are recognized for the great work they are doing on the food safety culture. We are driving the principle of proactive approach. You know, we saw the risk-based approach, it is helping us, but most importantly, a near-miss approach. So driving a near-miss approach, the way we do in the human safety, in the food safety as well, drive a near-miss approach, identify those near-miss opportunities in the plant, in the R&D centers, which can lead to a potential hazard, and then the further risk to the organization. And all these things, as the world is evolving, we are also moving towards the digitization. We have a lot of digitized platforms which we are using as a database for driving the food safety relevant information, and a culture is really and the culture. So, you know, we have a food safety intelligence. We talked about the horizon scanning, and the horizon scanning, we understand what's happening into the industry on the food safety. We have a systemic stage gate progress program for our innovations. And most importantly is we are housing our data into the systemic way so that information is available into the one format and people can leverage that information, drive the right corrective actions and right consumer responses to the food safety and quality. Ending that, I want to really say this. Last year, FMI in partnership with IFTI awarded PepsiCo for Food Safety Innovation Award, and this was really driving the culture in a different way. You see two cartoon characters there, two images. This is a branding called Be Hero. There's a Raymond, there's a Elisa. Across the organization, there is somebody who's Raymond, there is somebody who's Elisa. And all of us are driving one principle: I am the hero of food safety and I will ensure that product which I produced into the organization is safe to the consumer. Our vision is delighting consumer is my passion and trusted bank is our promise. So living with that, I will, a small video just to give the glimpses of how the execution is done and how it is celebrated. So this is a glimpses of Food Safety Day celebration last year. So this, June is the month when the celebration is still happening. So we'll have new video coming up soon. So thank you, team. I hope, it's a standard process, but it was very helpful for you to understand how it is done in a different organization and some learnings from it.
Food is a gift that we all adore, but safety comes first, that's what we're looking for. From farm to table, let's make it our goal to handle with care and make food safe for all. Safe food, healthy life, it's a human right. Let's work together day and night to ensure that every bite is a safe delight. Safe food, healthy life, shining so bright.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Silpa, and I think a lot of insights for all of us, and especially, yes, the food safety team and the top management sets the tone for the acceptable behavior based on food safety. GFSI, we all know, we have different standards across, right, and organizations, most of them are certified for them. We have Ravi Sankar Menon from TUV Sud to help us understand how does the whole gamut of things set up with the assessment and how does the certification thing fit into it. Over to you, Ravi.
Thank you, Sarika ma'am. Right, good morning to all of you. Namaskara. Thank you, Sarika ma'am, for giving us this opportunity. So let me head straight into it. So, we all hear about food safety culture, right? Now, here's the question, what is food safety culture? We all know what food safety is. So let's take a look at the word culture by itself first. So culture is basically a set of ideals or beliefs which is followed by a religion, a region, or even by a country. Normally it's passed on from generation to generation and even over a period of centuries. You can see this in the way when people enter a place of worship to offer prayer. They usually follow a set pattern, right? And they rarely deviate from this. That's because they believe in what they're doing and they feel that this is the correct thing for them. So food safety culture accordingly would be something where people know the difference between what is right and what is wrong. They would consistently do the right thing, even if no one was watching, because they know the impact of food safety culture complaint and they know the impact of what would come in case there was a negative consumer perception. So that is why it's important to have a food safety culture, right? So you can see one example I can share with you. I recently visited a fruit processor and there were a lot of empty cigarette packets, right, gutka stains all over near the fruit ripening chambers. This is before the product actually enters the processing hall. It's like a RM storage area. So what happens here is that I actually asked the client what's happening and he said it's probably not originating from my staff or even my seasonal and contract staff who are very well trained, right? This is probably coming from drivers and helpers who deliver the product to the company. So we move along the audit, along the external periphery, and I find that there are several pairs of footwear, very neatly arranged, almost with military precision, outside an office. So I inquire further what's going on here, and my client tells me that this is actually a mark of respect in this part of the world. So what happens is people take off their footwear and then step into a factory or step into the office. So I found that quite interesting. And he went on further to tell me that you have some very expensive looking footwear that belongs to customer representatives, mostly from MNCs. You have sandals, which belong to farmers and buyer agents who've come here to collect payment. And finally, you have what looks almost like Hawaii chappals, which belong to the drivers and helpers you heard about earlier. So I found this interesting because the drivers and helpers who have been accused of actually spitting and smoking on campus are the same people who in this case have actually followed a culture perfectly. So as you can see, it is quite possible for people to change their approach. It is not that a certain segment of people cannot be trained, cannot be modified, right? Food safety culture is definitely accessible to everyone. So if you see why is food safety culture important for the food industry, let me give you another example. A different day, different company. Worker number 4 is standing on a processing line and he sees this non-conforming product coming towards him. He knows exactly how it's come. It's come from workers 1, 2, and 3. It's originated from there. But he doesn't care enough to do something about it at that point of time. So he lets it go on. It's worker number 5's problem. It's not my problem. A lot later in the day, worker number 25 now comes up to supervisor number 2. Supervisor 2's been working long and hard. It's overtime for him. It's a second shift, 15 hours out of possible 16. He's understandably not particularly happy about this, right? So once he hears that there's a non-conforming product, he lets everyone know about this, everyone within earshot, what he feels about this. And eventually he regains his composure and tells the people that, okay, fine, there is nothing we can do. We have this vehicle here and we have to deliver right now. There's nothing we can do right now. Let the product go and make sure that the next batch comes out perfectly. So you can see in this case what happens. Potentially a product which is non-conforming and which could have food safety implications, which can cause a consumer complaint, is going to go out in the market, right? So food safety culture in this case is only as strong as your least trained employee, or in this case, your least motivated employee. This is not to say that the people just mentioned are the villains of this story. They could just have easily have been the heroes of this story with a slight modulation to their approach. So that's about food safety culture and why it is important. Now, what are the measures to achieve a positive food safety and culture change? The first thing is communication. Communication ideally needs to start from the very top, from senior management. This includes policies, objectives, KRAs, KPIs, and this is communicated down the line. So it gradually percolates down to middle management and then further down to supervisors and workers. This is also a two-way street of communication. Workers and supervisors can also bounce their ideas back up of middle management and senior management, and then with a bit of back and forth, eventually you should probably get a clear communication on what is the requirement. Step 2 is to reinforce this further to training. Training can depend. For a company with a stronger food safety culture, say a PepsiCo or a OFI, you can actually get away with having a refresher training once a year or even once in 6 months. But what is important here is that training needs to be provided to all segments of the organization. It should cover multiple areas. And for organizations where you're trying to actually inculcate a food safety culture, you might want to do more frequent trainings. This could be monthly, weekly, even daily for 2 to 5 minutes. That's perfectly fine. But what is important is to actually conduct an evaluation of the feedback you get from this training. And not just feedback, an evaluation of the effectiveness. And then see what else needs to be done. Because this is what tells you where you stand and what more needs to be done. The next step that comes here is collecting feedback from the employees. Like Shilpa ji also mentioned earlier, courage is very important here. And getting feedback, people won't have to be encouraged to come forward, right? But in some cases, that does not happen. So ideally, the best kind of feedback that can come is one which is anonymous. This can be as simple as a blank piece of paper where you simply ask people, what do you like about the organization? What do you like to see improve about the organization? For companies like a PepsiCo or OFI, you can have some more elaborate questions, no doubt about that, and answers ranging from with a multiple choice like strongly disagree to strongly agree with neutral in between. That is perfectly fine. But the feedback ideally needs to be evaluated. Once you evaluate feedback, that tells you the pulse of an organization. And the pulse of the organization is what will help to drive your food safety culture forward. It's also important to define what are the behaviors required to improve food safety processes. This is continuous and aligned with every step of what you mentioned so far. The next step here is performance measurement. Performance measurement is important because you cannot really go to the end of the year, then look at your performance and say that we have actually missed out to achieve our objectives. That will not help. So ideally you need to do this on a regular basis, possibly monitor it daily, check on a weekly basis, and discuss on a monthly basis. When that happens, you actually find out that you know exactly where you stand. And the next step, action plans and the timescales, is aligned to this. If you're achieving your objectives, possibly the action plans you made are correct. If not, you need to modify it or tweak it further so that you have a better chance to achieve your objectives by the end of the year. So that's how to go about that. Reviewing the effectiveness of completed activities is something that ideally should happen annually towards the end of a cycle. Once this occurs, what happens is that you know exactly what you've achieved. Do you need to modify whatever you've achieved so far? Do you need to come up with new objectives? All these things need to be discussed in this particular module. Now what you see here is a bit like a PDCA cycle because the whole thing starts all over again with communication. And once that is happening, you can see that your food safety culture is something that possibly is not achieved in one day. It takes a period of time. It could happen in 1 month, it could happen in 1 year, it could even happen in 5 years or more. That's fine. Every organization has got their own speed. So there's absolutely no problem in that. So from the GFSI standpoint, what we'll be looking for when we go for an audit, all these points that you see here come from GFSI standards. And this is what an auditor would be looking for. Understandably, you will not all achieve the same level. There'll be differences in achievement, but that's perfectly fine. The GFSI audit is meant to actually see what is your current level of compliance and what further needs to be done. So it is a bit like a gap analysis. It tells you where you stand, what more needs to be done. As simple as that. So, what are GFSI standards? So GFSI is the Global Food Safety Initiative. It's basically a coalition of action from the Consumer Goods Forum. And it basically involves multi-stakeholder governance with multiple players involved, including the retail sector, including food sector. It started off in the year 2000 following a spate of consumer complaints of a serious nature, right? And basically it has been developed as a cohesive framework to ensure that safe food is generated, right? And it also provides a global network of approved standards. The most common food safety standards you'd see include FSSC, BRCGS food, BRCGS packaging, right? There is IFS, there is SQF. If you're a seafood manufacturer, you would have BAP. If you're a fresh fruit or a frozen fruit processor or a vegetable processor, you would have GAP, Global GAP, Canada GAP, primers. So all these standards are there, right? Now the basic thing about what GFSI standards are meant to do is they're meant to provide assurance to your customers. If your customers know that you're certified with GFSI, GFSI group of standards, they probably may feel more confident in the product which you're supplying to them. They know that you have a strong food safety culture, and it is less likely that a non-conforming product will originate from your unit. If it does originate, of course, you will be able to find the root cause, you'll be able to avoid repetitive complaints, right? You can have corrective actions which are robust. That is actually what the objective of getting a food safety certification with GFSI is, right? So in case you have any further questions after this, please feel free to reach out to Sarika ji, to Ramesh and the wonderful team at Food Safety Works, as well as my team at Tube Food South Asia. We have my National Certification Manager here, Mr. Munish Kumar. We've got my training head, Mr. Amit Vashisht, and we've also got our team from certification, Mr. Prajesh, Mr. Suresh, right? So all of them are here as well, so please feel free to reach out to us as well. So thank you all. It was great to be in front of you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravi. I know it's lunch time, so I just have one questions each for the panelists, and then we'll leave it open for the audience Q&A, and then a lunch followed by that. So coming to you, Mr. Balkumar, you did talk about fortification instead of certification. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? And are there any strategies to be adopted?
Strategies to adopt?
Yeah.
Okay, like I briefly mentioned what I meant about fortification in terms of food safety, it's about trying to harness as much of the knowledge and practices that are available to improve as you go along, because it is about continuous improvement, and it is about making a system better and better, because the food environment is changing. So how do we deal with new things, whether it is commerce, whether it is plant-based, whether it is laboratory-based, whether it is alternates to existing plants or crops. And one big thing that is coming up in India, I think we need to be very much aware of it, is the whole area of nutraceuticals and nutritional products. Because the pharmaceutical industry is pushing a lot into the food industry. And they bring their own set of values and standards and observations. So I think we need to be able to absorb them, take advantage of the best practices there are, and that's what I mean by fortification, rather than saying that I go for a certification because that is important to me, because those are of limited value.
Yep.
I don't know strategies to employ. I don't think there's any particular strategy. It is about trying to be integrative, trying to be flexible, so that you find a solution that is suitable for the problem. We used to have a situation where we would give our factories all the parameters, for example, for pasteurizing ketchup, which is just heated to 90 degrees for a certain period of time and then pack it. But factory managers would be a little more conservative. I'm worried about having an incident in my factory, so I will add 5 degrees more to that temperature. So what you end up getting is browned ketchup. So those are the kinds of things where you say that, okay, mention the trust in having the courage to trust the data, so that you apply the right procedures, and having the courage to test your procedures to know that the product is being made. So keep on continuously improving. So that's the only strategy I can think of.
Yep. Thank you, Balkumar. Moving to you, Silpa. You talked about communication, which is an important part. How do you ensure that people are listening?
Communication is effective only when it reaches to the heart of the people, okay? That's the important part of it. So we always say that why people will listen to the communication, why tone from the top. But the fact is, it's not only the tone from the top, okay? Tone from the top gives the confidence to the people that there is a commitment from our leadership. What really helps people to listen to the communication is when you also listen to their feedback. And this is what many organizations do. And we call a principle of a listening circle, where we do talk to our people, operators online, and take the feedback from them and integrate that feedback into the communication. So more simpler the communication, your communications, if they are tailored around what recipients wants, then listening is more. And as I said, reward and recognition is one way of driving the culture, because they know that if I voice my opinion, I am not getting penalized, but I am getting recognized for the good work done. So again, the principle is simple. You get recognized for the good work and you get penalized for the bad work. So, it's a combination of it. To speak the language of the people who are receiving it and keep it simple, then you will have more listening power from the communication model.
Any instance that you would like to share which has helped you to change the behavior?
One instance I would say, my tenure in Mondelez, when Kraft took over Mondelez, we had a very different shift in the culture. The Cadbury old days of working, it was a really good organization with the focus on food safety. But the lens of looking at the food safety in an evolved manner was very different for the Kraft organization. And what was really changed and helped us was an initiative called Sarvottam. We created a platform called Sarvottam, which is Journey Towards Excellence. And that platform was really a partnership with supply chain, HR, and food safety quality team, creating a culture model and driving the simpler training right from the operators, professionals to the contractor level. And that momentum, right, definitely including top management commitment, helped us create a different culture change. The environment changed, the behaviors changed, and the lens of looking at the food safety quality changed for us. And that was really, and there was an award for the team driving that. But most importantly, we also created the new concept. We created a concept of passport for food safety and quality. The way we have our travel passport, we created passport for the people for accumulating a depository of their skill set. So it was very a pride moment for the people as well. A different concept, different culture drive, but a unified approach where everybody is working towards one goal.
Interesting insight from you, Silpa. Coming to you, Ravi, food safety culture, as we all know, is a GFSI requirement. Have you seen companies evolved in addressing the issue? Or is it just meeting the certification requirements, or do you see people serious about it?
Interesting question, Sarika ji. So I think probably all companies initially start off with the objective of getting certification. That's the first thing. It's a buyer requirement. When the buyer says that, yes, you need a certification, they go for it. But eventually what happens is they actually buy into the concept. Why? Because things are changing these days. Consumer perception is very important. And once that happens, by themselves, they start gradually increasing the food safety culture. And you can see this with bigger companies. They've actually reached a certain level where you can see the difference between a company which is trying to actually strongly improve food safety culture from a company which is just trying to get a certification and get by. But even those companies are now coming to the same track. Why? Because perception is changing, times are changing. So yes, they all have to get on board with that.
Thank you, and we are open for the questions. Anyone from the audience? Yes, sir.
This is for Ravi. See, when you do an assessment, most of the GFSI requirements have been now, bagged into the various standards, whether it's FSSC or BRC and stuff like that. When your team goes for the assessment, if there is any non-compliance in terms of the requirements of the GFSI, are you likely to give a NC, a major NC? If that is considered as a major NC, because that is one which is going to drive, how do you look at this?
Excellent question, sir. So normally, yes, the whole objective of an audit is to see what is the level of compliance against the GFSI standard, a certain clause, right? So if you're complying, it's a compliance. If you're not complying, it's a non-compliance. But what happens is, like you rightly mentioned, there is critical, major, and minor for all the GFSI standards. So what they normally say is that a failure to comply with the clause entirely would be a major non-conformity. For example, if there is no evidence of food safety culture. But if you actually have a food safety culture, but you've missed out a couple of points here and there. The whole objective is to actually find out where you are right now and to improve further. So it's a bit like a gap assessment. But in this case, it would come as a minor non-conformity. If it is an ISO standard, there is maybe not a minor non-conformity. They might call it an opportunity for improvement, and you can get it without a non-conformity. But GFSI is a very tough level of standards. So they don't give you that opportunity officially. They still call it a minor non-conformity. I hope that answers your question, sir.
Not really.
What would you like, sir?
I think that can be taken during the lunch hours networking.
All right.
Anyone else? One last question up there. I see a hand there. Ma'am, just a second. We'll come back, ma'am.
Very good afternoon. I have a small question regarding there are two aspects in terms of food safety. One is from the production point of view, the other one is the consumer point of view. So far we have been discussing from the production point of view. There is also, the food safety also carries forward from the consumer point of view. Say for example, there is a good spread of buffet in a hotel. And there are some diners who don't know how to have the food. They end up in having a lot of mixed cuisines and end up in completely a diarrhea and vomiting. So this indirectly impacts in the food safety. So here it's not about the food safety issue, it's also about awareness of how to dine. So I think this is one of the issues we have been facing in hotels, where consumers don't know how to have a food and they end up in mixing the cuisine. Say for example, you have a chicken chettinad and they end up with having a blue cheese dessert or some other cheese desserts. This will completely, we had some similar experience in hotels. So consumption awareness is also equally important from the common diners actually. So how do you take in this in terms of awareness program?
I mean, there are limited things you can do, I guess. How a consumer eats and how much they eat is something we can't really control. In terms of, I mean, I guess the answer is education. It's really making them aware of the fact. When companies sell products, you have to have the right amount of messaging, right amount of labels, the proper kind of labels to make sure that they do not compromise the safety, the education about best before expiry, this and that. When it comes to enjoying cuisines, I guess it's about consumers themselves trying to understand the culture of the area so they can enjoy certain sets of flavors better than others. So it's a different kind of education that you do, and which is more in terms of how the restaurants, hotels manage it. I think that's my take on it. I don't know if I'm right or wrong.
You're absolutely right. I will say it a little differently. Definitely the presentations were focused on what we do in organization, because we talk about what is in your control, Beyond the fence, which is up to consumer, we are here to change the world, but first thing is change your house, and that's what we do as an organization. So awareness, I think the organizations like FSSAI and all, there's so much of awareness which is happening across the, globe and across even India. Like, food trailers, the small, outlets which were earlier not monitored through, but today it is monitored through. So awareness is happening in a different formats. Maybe every organization is not playing a significant role directly in there, but indirectly in there. But our government organization is really helping us drive those awareness, create the awareness, not only into the urban areas, but also into the rural areas. So yes, it's a huge and vast area of attention, and I think right steps have already been started, and we should maybe we can take it as an organization and take it forward to some places. But yes, we do for our farmers and agri commodities. So everybody will do that job, and then awareness will be much, much more. And how the hoteling industry is also governed. So, consumer behaviors will change when you change, and we are changing our families, and this will continue, and this is how it will happen, is what I'm just thinking in a different way.
Fine. So consumers awareness, we need to give equal importance in terms of communicating the product. I also feel that when you're creating a product, when you produce a product,
yeah, definitely.
Consumer
awareness is very important.
Plays a major role in terms of how to have it also.
Label, regulation,
And
we are coming up with the regulation of you have to declare high fat, high sugar. So those are the things which are bringing awareness to the consumer. It's not only the food, but also the nutrition of the food you need to look into. The hygiene of the food you need to look into when you eat the food. So it's a culture, and I think as a country, India is doing a great step forward, and we should be there soon.
Fine. Thank you.
Yeah, I think as a consumers, we all are here, most of us as food safety professionals, I'm not too sure how many of us look beyond the expiry date and the pricing, right? So we have to fix ourselves, and then from 1 to 2 and 2 to 100, that happens. Yeah. So I think we'll take the last question that Lalita ma'am has, and then we break for our lunch.
This could be to anyone, especially to Ravi Shankar or thing. See, this certification and thing, it's like adding degrees to your name. You have MSc, PhD, FNAS, this. So when we talk about certification, because you are informing your client, this is on such and such a day I'm coming, and this is the team. So what happens is they all, get ready and to be sure or thing. How do you ensure that, they are really doing this? Because I'm telling you this from my experience, because we have this ISO 17025 for testing and calibrating laboratories, and whenever NABL comes from an audit, that whole 1 week is checking files, putting this together, do we have CRMs and things. So how does it happen for ISO 22000 or FSSC or things? So are you really sure that these industries, food industries who have this. Maybe there are a few, but we are really executing, what we do or what we say we are doing. That's what ISO 17025 is. So could you just throw some light on that?
Certainly, Dr. Ilta. Thank you. That's a wonderful question. So, like you said rightly about ISO standards, yes, we inform them in advance. We go to site and they're prepared. So you don't know whether it's something dramatic from their side or whether it's really happening. So how to counter that? The GFSS standards have actually come up with something called the unannounced audit program. This is where it's like a mandatory program. There are two options. You can go for the mandatory scheme, which is once in 3 years. So out of 3 years, one audit will be unannounced. You know the due date, that is the date of your certificate. 4 months before that, anytime, the auditing team will come for at least 2 to 3 days, except for Saturdays and Sundays, and except for 10 blackout days. So this is actually meant to give the consumer a better idea first, and also the client, right? Whether they're actually able to meet the requirements of standard day in and day out, or is it just for show? That is the first thing here. Second thing is that, for example, when you look at food standards, GFSS standards, it's something you cannot really check in 2 or 3 days. The audit is normally for 24 hours. So whatever you do is on a basis of sampling. So when you go for a sampling audit, it's a bit like you receive fruit in tons. You take 1 or 2 samples, look at the bricks facility, accept on a concession. So that is all the audit process does really. It does not go step by step. It's not like an accounts audit where you actually go into number by number, crunch all the decimals and say that this is matching or not matching. In this case, the sample unfortunately is what you have to follow because there is no other way to complete on time. But we always say that as per any audit protocol, as per ISO 19011, ISO 17023, we always say that the audit is on the basis of sampling. On the basis of sampling, these are the findings which you've received. So that is how we try to go about it. But yes, unannounced audit programs are the best way. We also have companies which go for mandatory or voluntary unannounced audits, where in the entire 3-year cycle, all 3 audits are unannounced.
Thank you, Dr. Balkumar Marthi. Sir? Thank you, Ms. Shilpa ma'am. Thank you, Ravi Shankar sir. The gift boxes are sponsored by Teas and Twigs, and they make the finest blends of herbal teas. We can keep it there.